Hello and welcome to biology class. I am Shipra Sharma from ADARSH MANDIR SHANKAR Mount Abu. For class 11, today we will learn about the breathing and exchange of gases. So before starting, we have to know what is human respiratory system, what is respiration. So you can see here, this is the human respiratory system. In this is the windpipe, trachea, and trachea is divided into two parts. These are the bronchus, and bronchus are further divided into bronchioles. So these are the tubes where the air is inhaled in the lungs. Lungs are the main respiratory organs which are present in the thoracic cavity. Thoracic cavity, it is surrounded by the ribs from lateral side, okay, from these ventral portion, the sternum is present, and the back portion, backbone is present. So in the ribs, these lungs are protected, and lungs are made up of alveoli. Alveoli are the spherical structure with thin wall for the proper diffusion, and these trachea and bronchus contains C-shaped cartilage. So what is C-shaped cartilage? C-shaped cartilage are the cartilage which prevent the tube, that is the trachea and bronchus, from collapse after expiration. Okay. So now what is respiration? Actually, respiration is the process which includes these steps. The first one is breathing. Breathing is the pulmonary ventilation. It means exchange of gases, exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. The second is diffusion of gases across alveolar membrane. When the oxygen-rich air is filled in the lungs, then exchange or the diffusion process takes place, because diffusion is the movement of gases from higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay. Then the third point is transport of gases, transport of carbon dioxide and transport of oxygen by the blood. Blood is a liquid connective tissue and it contains respiratory pigment. The respiratory pigment is the, what is respiratory pigment? It is hemoglobin. So hemoglobin is bind with the oxygen, forms oxyhemoglobin. So in the form of oxyhemoglobin, oxygen is transported. Okay. Now the next is diffusion of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the blood and tissues. By the blood, all the oxygen they are reach up to the each and every cell, every tissue. Then in their cells, that oxygen is diffused from blood to tissues. Then the last is the utilization of oxygen by the cells. Utilization means the oxygen is consumed for the oxidation of food. And oxidation of food is a catabolic reaction, and by this process the glucose molecule is breaks and energy is formed. Okay, so this is the respiration. The first process of respiration is breathing. Breathing, or we can say the external respiration, it includes inspiration and expiration, inhalation and exhalation. So what is the difference between inspiration and expiration? Inspiration is the inhale or intake of oxygen-rich air, while expiration is the release out of carbon dioxide-rich air. So what happens in our body, in our thoracic cavity during this? During inspiration, the ribs moves upward and outward during the inspiration, and also the contraction occurs in the external intercostal muscles. What are external intercostal muscles? These external intercostal muscles, they are present between the ribs. These are the ribs. So the muscles connect these, both the successive ribs. These are the muscles, external intercostal muscles and internal intercostal muscles. So during inspiration, the contraction occurs in the external intercostal muscles and diaphragm become flat. The normal position of diaphragm is dome shape. This is the normal position. So at the time of inspiration, at the time of inhalation, these diaphragm become flat. And what happens after this? The volume of thoracic cavity is increased, then if the volume is increased, then the pulmonary pressure is decreased and forcefully the outer air is deposited in the lungs. And during expiration, what happens? Just opposite to the inspiration. During expiration or exhalation, ribs moves inward and downward. And the second is, during expiration, the relaxation occurs in the external intercostal muscles and diaphragm become dome shaped. Again, the normal position of diaphragm is dome shaped. And during this, the volume of thoracic cavity will be decreased. So the pulmonary pressure will increase and carbon dioxide rich air release out from the body. So this is the inspiration and expiration. Now we come to some volumes or respiratory capacities. The first is tidal volume. What is tidal volume? Tidal volume is the volume of air inspired or expired during normal respiration. Okay, and the limit is 500 ml. The second is inspiratory reserve volume, IRV. Inspiratory reserve volume is the forcible inspiration. During meditation, we inspire forcible. So after forcible inspiration, the capacity is only 2500 ml to 3000 ml. The third one is expiratory reserve volume, ERV. Expiratory reserve volume is forcible expiration. Forcible expiration, it is only 1000 to 1100 ml. Then the next is residual volume. Residual volume is the volume of air in lungs even after a forcible expiration. After forcible expiration, what is remain in the lungs, it is known as the residual volume. So residual volume is the 1100 ml to 1200 ml. Next is inspiratory capacity, IC. Inspiratory capacity is the total air, total volume of air can inspire after normal expiration. After normal expiration, the total air can inspire. This is TB plus IR. Then the next is expiratory capacity, EC. Expiratory capacity is the capacity of a person can expire after normal inspiration. It is TB plus ER. And the next is functional residual capacity, FRC. Functional residual capacity is the air remain after normal expiration. It is ERV plus RV. And vital capacity is the maximum volume of air a person can breathe. Is known as the vital capacity, and it is ERV plus TB plus IRV. And the last is total lung capacity. Total lung capacity is the RV, ERV, TB plus IRV. Now we come to the transport of gases. How in our body the oxygen and carbon dioxide will be transported. So first we will discuss about the oxygen. About 97% of oxygen is transported by the RBCs. Actually RBC contains the hemoglobin, which is respiratory pigment. Hemoglobin molecule binds the oxygen and forms oxyhemoglobin. And in the form of oxyhemoglobin, 97% oxygen is transported and only 3% oxygen is carried through the plasma in the dissolved condition. And carbon dioxide, about 20 to 25% carbon dioxide is carried as carb amino hemoglobin. Hemoglobin binds the carbon dioxide and forms carb amino hemoglobin. But 70% carbon dioxide is by the bicarbonate ion. So what is happened? That is carbon dioxide react with water in the presence of carbonic anhydrase enzyme. Carbonic acid H2CO3 is formed. Then carbonic acid in the presence of carbonic anhydrase, it is breaks into the bicarbonate ion and hydrogen ion. And with this bicarbonate ion, carbon dioxide is transported about 70%. Now the last portion is disorders. What are the disorders? The first is asthma. Asthma is the disease of inflammation of bronchi and bronchioles. Second is emphysema. During the emphysema, the alveolar wall are totally damaged due to the smoking, cigarette smoking. And occupational respiratory disorders, they are caused by the grinding and stone breaking. These are the industries or factories. So, in the workers, inflammation leads to the fibrosis in lungs. So, this is all about the breathing and exchange of gases.